Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Anime. So I'm Paul,
I'm Dave.
and Dave, you had me watch what?
Had you watch uh, the CG the 3D CGI movie Lupin the Third, the first?
Yes, and I had you watch the absolutely fantastic AEW All Out 2021.
Yes, I'd have to agree.
Not to give away what I think of the show. Anyway, we're gonna start off with Lupin the Third. So I'll do a quick.
so,
Oh, go ahead.
so quickly with this one,
Yeah,
you have a bit of experience with Lupin the Third, seeing a film or two. Is there any other thing that you know of the series?
I saw the. We watched one of them for this. It was the one by Miyazaki. It's the
Yes.
Castle of something, but that's the extent of it.
That's kind of your extent on Lupin knowledge. There hasn't been anything else that you've dived into.
Nope.
And I think just as it was with the Miyazaki version of it, did you appreciate it with how it was, or was it just sort of typical film, nothing too out of the ordinary?
Uh, if I remember correctly, I was like, it's pretty good. I enjoyed it well enough. I mean, it from memory, I was like, it's a 7 out of 10. Like, it's good. I enjoyed watching it. Don't know if I'd rush back to see it again, like next week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For anything like that. So curious, either to start with a bit of a synopsis first, or get kind of your impression of the film with seeing it for the first time with the first.
Let's do. I'll go through the plot and then we'll go over what I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
of
go over
some
it.
of the movie. Anyway, so the movie starts in Nazi-occupied France. Archaeologist Professor Bresson entrusts his heavily trapped diary and an amulet containing the key to the book to his family. The diary is purportedly to be the guide to an immense treasure called the Eclipse, which a group of Nazis working for, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce this, Annenberg, is seeking.
Yes.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Bresson is killed by the arriving Germans. His family escapes but is chased down by Annenberg's Professor Lambert and ends up in a
Mm-hmm.
car crash which only the infant daughter survives. Lambert steals the amulet but is unable to find the diary which was lost during the chase. In the 1960s, the diary resurfaces during a memorial exhibition in Bresson's honor. Okay, so it's spelt Lupin, but they say Lupin, which always throws me off.
There's a bit of pronunciation that comes with translating to doing the dubs and other sorts of cases with that. I think in the most case, it's the going with the pronunciation that comes from Inspector Zenigata, who always shouts his name.
Yes. Anyway, Lupin the Third tries to steal the book as his grandfather had unsuccessfully attempted before him, only to be foiled first by a young woman disguised as a security guard, then by Fujiko, and arrested by Inspector Zenigata. On his
Mm-hmm.
way to prison, Lupin is sprung by his friends. Again, I'm going to mispronounce these names. Uh, Gaijin and Goemon,
Mm-hmm.
and sneaks into the home of the fake security guard, a prospective archaeology student named Letitia, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
He,
Letitia.
yeah, okay. He presents a medal identical to the one stolen by Lambert, which his grandfather had left him. Letitia contacts Lambert, her adoptive grandfather, who ordered her to steal the book in the first place. Lambert tells her to bring Lupin and the amulet to him in exchange for sending her to Boston University to study archaeology. Fujiko delivers the diary to a group of Annenberg fugitives looking for the eclipse. Among them, Lambert and their leader, Gerard. However, Gerard quickly discovers that Fujiko's duplicity and has her detained. Letitia leads Lupin to Lambert's hideout, a customized transport plane, where where they retrieve the book and the counterpart to Lupin's amulet. Lupin succeeds in opening the diary, and the two learn that the eclipse is a power generator left behind by a highly advanced lost civilization. and is taken to the ruins of and is hidden in the ruins of, I don't fucking know how to pronounce that.
With how complicated those particular languages names can get.
Yo Taichkan? I don't know. I'm probably butchering that. Knowing Letitia has led him into a trap, Lupin willingly surrenders to Gerard and Lambert. Fujiko uses Lupin as a diversion to escape on her own. Lupin sneaks back into the plane and eavesdrops on Gerard and Lambert, learning in the process that they are seeking none other than Adolf Hitler, who reportedly faked his own death and escaped to South America during the fall of Berlin, which is actually a theory that some people believe. Fun fact.
Yeah.
And is now intending to use the eclipse to resurrect the Third Reich. When Letitia, who also overheard the conversation, confronts the two men, Gerard throws her out of the plane, snatching the diary and the amulet. And the amulet's back. Lupin jumps after her, and he and Letitia are then rescued by Fujiko, Gaijin, and Goemon, yeah. Left stranded, Lupin summons Zenigata to his location and steals his Interpol helicopter. Zenigata manages to get back on board, and after learning of the stakes, he teams up with Lupin's gang and Letitia to thwart the villains. During a stopover, Lupin reveals to Letitia that he has deduced her to be Bresson's granddaughter, and that Lambert adopted her only to get his hands on the diary and the eclipse. He also discovers that his grandfather actually helped Bresson find the eclipse, but afterwards trapped the book to prevent the eclipse from falling into the wrong hands. Gerard and Lambert find the eclipse's hiding place and are unable to proceed past its traps without the diary, forcing them to return to where they left Lupin. Exploiting their absence, Lupin's team makes it past the obstacles, but then forced to discover that their enemy's retreat was merely a ruse to clear the path to the eclipse. Lambert and Gerard activate the eclipse, which carries them and Letitia back to the surface, but Lupin's team intercepts them before they can escape. Scuttling Lambert's plane, Lambert uses the eclipse to get the plane to fly again and activates a micro-black hole to finish off Lupin's team. Believing them dead and drunk with power, he claims the device for himself and incinerates the diary. When he prepares to use the eclipse to destroy Berlin, Gerard fights him. When Letitia takes control of the device, Gerard shoots at her, but Lambert takes the bullet for her and dies. Right afterwards, Gerard receives the news that Hitler has been located and takes the eclipse and Letitia to him. When Gerard arrives at the Annenberg headquarters, he meets with Hitler, and the two depart on the eclipse to test its capabilities. Left behind, Letitia discovers that Lupin's gangs have beaten Gerard to the base, and with the help of Zenigata and Interpol, and Lupin has disguised himself as Hitler. Back on the eclipse, Lupin reveals himself, and Gerard attacks him, and Lupin tampers with the eclipse controls to release a micro-black hole directly inside the eclipse. Gerard is sucked into the hole and perishes, while Lupin bravely escapes with the gravity device he kept from the ruins. After a fond but hasty goodbye to Letitia and gifting her with the gravity device and her enrollment in Boston University, into Boston University, Lupin and his associates rush to escape Zenigata's ever-zealous attention.
So I think on whole, how was your experience with the movie? How did you like this one?
That's a tricky thing to answer.
Mostly because of the case of the different tones that it kind of shifts through?
No, I didn't mind that. Okay, I like the stories, I like the characters. I didn't particularly like the animation.
Okay, where it kind of gets a little zany and ridiculous.
No, okay. So my problem with the animation is I think back to the one I watched, the Castle of
the Castle Galligastro.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, the style of that was really cool. It had a lot of personality to it. A lot of the anime I've seen, and I don't know if this is true of other anime, but there's always a lot of personality in the animation. It has a very unique look and style.
Mm-hmm.
And this looked like a fucking Minions movie. It just looked very generic, and it looked like one of those Illumination movies. And it's they don't look bad. They just, They don't look great.
That sort of stuff. It's a case of they tried, but again, with it being two different styles, and with this one kind of being a bit more experimented with and still in its side of early stages, there's only so much that they can do in comparison to the expression that can come out with animation in some cases. At the very most, with the couple particular scenes with Lupin's dexterity and other particular things that they've done, they did their best with what was given. But again, some personality is lost with how much they can show with specific facial expressions in some scenes, and certain interactions that they can only do.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I said, like it's just like you look back, you look at like me, like I'm not a huge fan of Hayao Miyazaki. I think his films are mediocre at best a lot of times. But they have like there's something cool, like they're cool to look at.
Yeah, with those sorts of cases.
Whereas this, I'm like, is this a Lupin movie or is this like The Secret Life of Pets 2? I can't really tell just by looking at it.
Yeah,
that's kind of what brought it down for me. Was I'm like, I mean, it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look like how I want it to look. That's entirely like, but like, I'm like, I would watch more of this character and this kind of a story just in a different style.
Okay. And it's definitely good, especially near the end of the movie, with the company that worked with designing this movie. They're definitely up for making more of this style of movie. Whether or not it actually made enough at box office to warrant that, though, is a question.
Okay, so I'm gonna put my review, my feelings of this movie in a way that only people who understand comic books will know. But this movie, to me, it's like reading a Tony Daniel book. It's like, it looks fine, but there's no personality. I wanted this to be like, I'm trying to think of a good artist. I wanted this to be drawn by like somebody like a Sean Phillips, where there's energy and there's like a cool look to it. That means nothing to probably most of the audience, but that's fine.
Nah, that's somewhat understandable. The one particular thing that comes to my mind is you could take a still image from any part of the film and it would supposedly have personality, but that hasn't been reached with this film for you.
No. I would, like I said, like if you told me this was a spin-off of like The Secret Life of Pets, I'd be like, you could be. Like, looking at it. But yeah,
again on whole with this one, it's kind of a case of my experience with Lupin is only so much. Again, mostly with this film, again with the work that Hayao Miyazaki has done, and a couple particular episodes that were done from the older series, where there are differences and changes between certain animator styles for everything. There's still a couple nuggets of things that still hold true, but in my case, when I got this film, just being incredibly interested in seeing it, seeing where they go with it, and at least sort of giving it support and whatnot, I definitely wasn't disappointed, but there was kind of cases of, this is definitely good for someone's interpretation of Lupin in this age, but whether or not it's seen as anything amazingly great, it's probably not going to reach that level.
No, it's perfectly... To me, it's like, this is a good first effort, and I hope they get to make a sequel, because I feel like it would be a lot better.
Definitely. Allow a bit more time to experiment with the style of the 3D CGI and see what other stuff that they can do with it to maybe give it some more expression, or see what they can do to really make the movie pop.
That, and just like, you've already established who all of the main characters are, so you don't, like, you buy an extra, like, 15 to 20 minutes in your movie where you don't have to do that again.
Yeah.
They have a bit more time to kind of put together a more interesting plot. Although this one's fine. I do like that we actually get a movie where, you know... I mean, the plot is kind of insane. It's like they're trying to bring back the Third Reich, and Hitler apparently escaped at the end of World War II. Like, I'm on board with stuff like that.
With the spoilers for people who are interested in the movie, the spoiler of it being a ruse by the police for people like that, was that something that you sort of expected with that, or were you sort of thinking, oh man, would this movie kind of dive into a person being hidden in that sort of sense and having it as a villain throughout a series sort of thing?
I was 100% sure that it wasn't real. And
Okay, yeah.
the only reason I say that is, for one, I can't imagine a Japanese company wanting to kind of tell that story.
It would definitely be tricky, yes.
Just because of like their ties with World War II and everything. Like, I feel like they're probably not going to want to touch that. And also, I just feel like doing something like this movie came out, what, 2019? I feel like doing that story in 2019 probably wouldn't have been the best idea.
Yeah.
Considering where, we were politically in that.
So true.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I thought the movie was fine. I didn't think it was incredible, but it was pretty good.
So out of any of the particular characters, were there any particular ones that kind of rubbed you the wrong way for their kind of stereotypical way that they acted?
None of the main characters. Like, I'm
Okay.
looking, like, I looked at, like, the list. I'm like, I would watch more of pretty much any of these characters. Like, Lupin's fun. I like him. His whole little team is, like, I quite enjoy. They have a fun kind of, like, chemistry. I'm like, yeah, I would watch pretty much any of them, more of any of them. Yeah. Do you have anything else about Lupin the Third?
No, I think at most is pretty much what I expected with watching this film. Fairly amazed that they were able to get the elasticity of some of the particular things that Lupin can do and somewhat translated into this style. It's like, that definitely works. It's what he's known for.
Yeah, absolutely. Alright, if you have nothing else, we'll move on to All Out 2021.
All the wrestlings.
Alrighty, so this event originally took place September 5th, 2021, at the Now Arena in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, which is just outside of Chicago. 10,126 people in attendance, with 200,000 people watching on pay-per-view at home.
I'd be surprised. Kind of ranted and raved about this a little bit when it was coming up.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is... I'd have to do some research, but I want to say this beat their previous... Like, their previous shows had done, like, 100 to 125,000 on pay-per-view. So there was definitely a lot more interest in this show because of... I mean, we'll get into it, but... There were some reasons for there being a lot of interest. So
very true.
First match through on the main card is Eddie Kingston versus Miro for the TNT Championship.
Yes.
Now, what did you think of this?
Well, at the start, it pretty much gave off the intention of what I figured it was going to give, which was Eddie Kingston being acting the young upstart coming in to take down the champ as it was sitting, and Miro holding his particular title. But as the match proceeded, it was the case of both these guys knew what they were doing, and Eddie wanted to win within this and wanted to take Miro down. And just the case that with how much they've kind of pushed that there's been a lot of people going after him, Miro was kind of losing steam. Just from looking at it, at least from what I've seen, and not having too much history of how much work he's kind of done over the last while, but still pushing out and holding on to his title as it seemed.
Yeah, and they bet the shit out of each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, Jesus. So what did you think of Eddie Kingston? Because he's not everybody's cup of tea.
Again, with that, always with the cocky sort of people, anyone with particular cockiness always kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like, words only go so far in some cases, but just with his style, especially with them bringing up the case of him using more Japanese or other particular methods from there, getting training from them, and the particular work that he did within that, it's like he has skill. It's understandable. I still don't like his cockiness, though.
See, for me, Eddie Kingston is one of the best things about AEW. I'm like,
I can understand that with you.
but like, my thing is, this guy's been around for like a long time. How did nobody else scoop him up? Because this dude, when did he debut? Let me just quickly look this up. Because I want to say, like 2002.
Oh.
Nobody signed this guy for like 17 years. How did you not, like, wow.
Well, it is the wrestling community. In some cases, they can be a little bit blind.
I can absolutely tell you why he did not get signed by WWE. I tell you right now, it's because he's got a gut. He doesn't have that like bodybuilder look.
Okay, yeah, it's somewhat understandable.
But he's so good, and he's such a good promo. And I love his T-shirt. Did you read his T-shirt when he came out?
I believe so, but it's kind of gotten lost within all the other particular outfits that were in the show.
Oh, it was so good. He had a T-shirt that said "Redeem D's nuts," which is great because Miro's gimmick is
that's actually fairly fitting with this particular match.
Yeah, and what did you think of Miro's gimmick being the Redeemer?
Again, with me, just mostly off of looks. I'm not too sure of his history of all the particular stuff. They kind of ran over it a little bit with going on through the match. Just the case of he's held on to this title for so long, and some matches only last a couple of minutes in some cases. But he knows what he's doing, and he's keeping it down. As for the Redeemer, nothing immediately kind of came to mind aside from him. He has his particular style, and this match kind of pushed him a bit out of it, but he doesn't really go off from that.
No, I mean, they're two big guys who are basically just beating the shit out of each other. Like, it's not... They're not going to be doing a whole lot of, like, high flying. But...
with anything like that, but...
Miro's whole gimmick was he was referring to himself as, like, God's favorite champion, and he was doing this very, like, religious kind of thing, and it was fun.
I did not really catch that. I think at the very most I caught advertisement from his entry and other sorts of bits with that, but I don't know. It didn't really go into that sort of level for that sort of bit there. Probably for the best. If it did, I probably would have been like, I'm not too okay with this, because it either goes to the one level, the other level, or the third level that we do not want to touch.
Alrighty, so Miro defeats Eddie Kingston and retains the TNT title in, a good opening match.
As it is, it pretty much kept for the time that was allotted to them.
Yeah, so they went like 13 and a half minutes.
Like in comparison to when the announcers were sort of saying he can manage some of those matches in like 7 minutes, and one of his best was like a minute and a half.
Yeah, he beat Fuego del Sol in a minute 59, which is, yeah. So next up was Satoshi Kojima versus Jon Marxley.
Yes, with this particular one.
Now, I know you won't know who Satoshi Kojima is, but you would know who Jon Marxley is. You've seen him a few times, probably. What do you think of this match?
With this match, again, just with its starting opening, case of being respectful, but just Moxley just being like, no, let's just get to it. It's like, I can somewhat be okay with that, but I have questions about you. But just the case of how this match went with their skills of everything, it's the case of Satoshi was definitely good with all the particular stuff that he did. But it turned around for me with Moxley, just with being, no, it's the case of he just wants to win this match. He's determined with it. And I'm like, I can somewhat respect that.
I love the opening where Satoshi puts out his hand for the handshake and Moxley flips him off. I know some
Yeah.
people are like, oh, that makes Moxley a heel, but I'm like, no, I've always read it as like, he's like, you ain't fooling me with that bullshit.
In some cases, I can somewhat understand that, but yeah, it's also a case of it can also be a deception.
Yeah.
So, case of later on in the match is like, okay, it's a bit more of a case of let's skip any of the introductory things. Let's just get to this.
Yeah, and again, these two just beat the shit out of each other.
So very true.
So Moxley pins Kojima, and then we get a surprise debut.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure of the case with this one, but I was like, oh man, surprise of this particular person. Minoru Su-
Minoru Suzuki.
Suzuki, thank you. Yeah, words. But with that particular thing, as he came in, again, just with my particular thought process, and I wouldn't go that far in saying Yakuza, but I'm thinking like Japanese punk student sort of look that he was sort of going with. And just with the fun, again, just with them laughing and sizing each other up. Because later on in the show, they announced that these guys were going to be having a match later on. And it was like, alrighties.
Yeah. Again, you won't know who Minoru Suzuki is, but he is a terrifying individual.
In the typical sort of sense, or the oh dear goodness kind of sense?
Well, he's probably arguably the greatest combat sports athlete ever, potentially. Aside from being a pro wrestler, he was also an MMA fighter.
Okay.
Where he had 49 fights, won 30 of them, and of course lost 19. He is quite an individual.
He is skilled.
Very much so. So yeah, they would have that match then, like a couple of nights later on Dynamite, and it was quite fun. Anyway,
interesting.
Moving on to the AEW Women's World Championship match, where we have
Yes.
Chris Statlander against Dr. Britt Baker, DMD.
Yes.
What did you think of this?
With this one, it was definitely good match with all the particular things with there, because again, a case with how long it's been since I've been out of the wrestling scene. At the very most, I do remember Dr. Baker, just with her other matches that I've seen that you've shown me, and little bits from that. Not exactly sure with Chris, if I remember her specifically. It was ringing a bell, but I wasn't sure if I've actually seen a match from her before.
I think she might have been in like a battle royal you've seen, but I don't think you've seen a singles match with her.
Okay with that. But no, on whole, just with both of them, it definitely turned out to be a fairly decent match. On whole, just with the outcome of the match, I wasn't exactly happy of who won with just the case, but it's also maybe understandable with the case of Dr. Baker managing the win in the match.
Well, I mean, yeah, she wins. But like,
Yep, go ahead.
She's a heel, so she wins with help. Like that, you know, I'm fine with
Yeah,
that.
that's usually kind of the case with mine. Any particular person or person that comes in with a crew where they either assist or hinder with particular things within the match kind of leads to not too great of things to see from there. At the very most, she did get booped.
She did. Okay, what do you think Chris Statlander's gimmick is?
I think with the half-face thing, that supposed split personality, but I wasn't too sure with the specifics.
So she's supposed to be an alien.
Oh, okay. No, with the eye.
Yeah, and with the booping and stuff, yeah. And
yes.
the announcer is from the Andromeda Galaxy.
Man, I missed that.
It's a great little touch. Anyway, Orange Cassidy was at ringside for this match, and Orange Cassidy is great.
No, he definitely turned out good. Like, he was good and supportive, but then just the case of he took off his vest, like, take it down.
The great part of it is like Orange Cat. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with him.
No, not with him, no.
But his whole gimmick is that he's like a slacker and he never says anything or really does anything. He's always like,
And
yeah,
then just
whatever, man.
do something.
Yeah, it's great. So next up, oh, actually, during the Baker Statlander match, Britt Baker does a what they refer to as a Pittsburgh Sunrise, and that's the minute I'm like, so Adam Cole signed with the company. Okay, good to know.
Hmm.
So I'll tell you why I knew that. Her and Adam Cole are a couple,
Yes, yes.
and I'm like, it was announced like a couple of days before this that he had not re-signed with WWE, and I'm like, well, you just told me that he signed with your company because she does like a couple of his moves on a high profile match a couple of days after he left your competition. Okay. I think it's a subtle thing for people who know like that kind of stuff that like, oh, we're getting Adam Cole later.
Oh, okay.
At least that's what I thought. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Then,
Next up, we get
waiting and see.
the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers in a steel cage for the AEW Tag Team titles.
Yes. The Young Bucks.
Let's start off with the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah.
What did you think of their entrance?
With them, on the one hand, I was rooting for them when it was sort of coming up for the match. But just when it sort of came to that bit with actually having rap sort of entry and then coming in with that, on the one hand, it was the case of, yeah, I can understand that with just the appearance and just with that. But then just the other side of me was just like, man, that's gaudy.
Okay. So, not a big fan of like the guy like singing them to the ring. Don't really care. Don't know who it is. I'll be completely honest. I'm ignorant of that. I love the headdresses. I love the Aztec headdresses that they're wearing.
Yeah, with
those
that.
are so
where in
cool.
my case, the whole picture of the thing of that is like, yeah, that pretty much works. Where in my case with the headdresses, it's like that seems a little much, but I can somewhat understand it. But still,
I love how it looks like. To me, it looks like kind of like an Aztec warrior kind of thing, and I'm like, that's cool. I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
So when this happened initially, when the show aired, I was like, oh, so they're losing because they got the big fancy entrance. That was my initial thought because like
With me not being too much of an expert on things, I didn't really see it like that. It was mostly kind of a case of, in comparison to the Young Bucks, you could somewhat have a bit of a competition of being show-offy.
well, the reason is like because having watched WWE for so many years, if you get the big fancy entrance, that's a way of them mitigating you losing.
Okay.
So you get the big entrance, but you don't get the title. And here, as we'll find out, that's not necessarily the case.
Mm-hmm.
So you had something to say about the Young Bucks.
Oh boy. So I don't exactly have the best memory, but Young Bucks is one of the particular ones that you typically show a lot of matches to me. So I'm somewhat knowledgeable of them. And I'm not exactly sure of the things I've said in the past, but I think at the most when they were first sort of introduced to things that they were kind of the up and starters, fairly good for what they did with their style, and that I appreciated that, and they were good with what they did. But then as things went on, just with them getting their crowd, them getting cocky, and then just doing all the particular things that they do,
They're such but they're such good douchebag heels.
In some cases, I can somewhat see, but even with this match, just the case of, just, their stupid tricks.
We'll get into some of their tricks in a minute. So this match is in the steel cage, like I said. This was done because the Elite had been interfering in a bunch of matches, and Tony Khan made an announcement saying, right, we're going to do this in a steel cage so you guys can't fuck around.
Yeah.
I also love how they make a point of saying you cannot win by escaping the cage.
Okay, yes. With that one, it was either, I
It's
believe,
pinfall or
either in
submission.
or...
You have to.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pinfall or submission in the ring. I always hated in
Yes.
WWE that you could win by running away. You win by
Yeah,
escaping. Like, how does that make sense?
like that sort of just goes as forfeit in that sort of case. But
No,
even
like,
then,
in like a WWE cage match, you have to escape the cage to win. You don't win by pinfall or submission, which always felt backwards to me. Anyway,
I guess with their particular design for particular matches and whatnot.
what did you think? What did you think of this tag match?
So with this one, with my experience with the Young Bucks, as it is, they're good with what they do and the particular moves, synergy, and whatnot that they have with their style.
Mm-hmm.
But especially with the Lucha Brothers, with the younger brothers' acrobatics and the synergy that both of them share together with it, it was definitely good just to see with this match, with how they use the cage and everything within there, as well as teamwork and other particular events that happened within the match. So both of the teams are good, but in my case was just more of the case of rooting more for the Lucha Brothers to win, just for that one particular thing that the Young Bucks had to do. Just, they had to go for that angle.
Are you talking about the shoe?
I'm talking about the masks.
Oh, okay.
They just had to go for the masks and try to take them off, and it's like, out of all the particular things, it's understandable, but even for you guys, that is low.
Okay. I can almost guarantee you that was a spot that Penta and Phoenix came up with, because they love doing that. That happens all the time to them.
Mm-hmm.
When their masks get ripped. They must
love definitely that. This one.
I do love how...
But no...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead with your one. Finish up the thought.
I do love how they bring in the thumbtack shoe. It's so good.
Just the case of... Again, I can't remember exactly how the announcers sort of said it, but it was the case of they tried to stop this shit from happening, but yet it comes in, and now that it's in the cage, it's legal.
I love Tony Schiavone in some of these matches because he just has no time for Don Callis' bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
He's like one step away from me just being like, shut the fuck up, Don. So good.
Mm-hmm. But yes, bringing in the thumbtack shoe, and just out of all the particular things, I could see it happening, but then just also the case of, why, Young Bucks? Why?
So Brandon Cutler throws a bag into the ring. I think it's Nick who retrieves it and hands it to Matt, and it's the thumbtack shoe. So he puts it on and he goes to super kick Phoenix, but Penta dives in front of it to take the kick for his younger brother.
Yes.
And then everybody gets kicked with the damn shoe.
Yeah, pretty much. Whether it's with a foot or it's on your hand, everyone gets a taste of the tack shoe.
And everybody's bleeding, and it's just a mess, and it's great because, like, oh my god, the stuff they do in this match. Like, go watch it if you can.
Yeah.
It's a great 22 minutes.
Like, again, just with the ring itself, there's a lot of things that could happen, but adding a cage just amplifies everything to a new level.
Well, especially with guys like this who do a lot of, like, the high-flying, very fast-paced stuff. Like, they're diving off the cage. They're doing, like... There's a spot where, like, Phoenix gets thrown into the cage, but he, like, grabs on it and starts, like, climbing up it and stuff. Like...
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and even... I can't remember exactly with that particular one, but one of the Lucha Brothers managed to get up high. They kind of agree on it, and were supposedly trying for a splash, but the Young Bucks kind of caught on to them. And I can't remember if it was the case that they did manage to try doing a jump from up that high, but still, just with how high the cage kind of went up to and how much you could kind of go with that, it gets ridiculous.
Phoenix did jump off the cage onto everyone, yeah.
Oh, okay, yes. Yes, with that one.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal match, and the Lucha Brothers end up winning the tag titles from the Young Bucks in an absolute barn burner.
Yes.
It was just honestly, if that was the only match on the card, I would have been like, I got my money's worth.
That just go into that sort of case.
Honestly, if they said that if you paid $20 you got this match, I'd be like done. Like I would have been
Right.
perfectly happy. I'm like, I got my money's
No,
worth.
as it was, especially with you passing me this and with how long the show sort of ran for, it's like this is definitely not going to be like those couple of particular shows where there's going to be a lot of the matches that only last less than 5 minutes.
No, no, definitely not. They definitely give things time.
Almost with all the matches that were in this show, they were meaty. They go into it.
Yes, yeah. We haven't got to the shortest match yet.
Yeah, no.
Did you have
No.
anything else about the tag match?
No, I think just on whole that it did turn out good, and I'm very thankful that the fact that they got a fancy opening didn't result in them losing. Yay for the Lucha Brothers getting the tag team title.
Yes, very much so. So next up is the 21-woman Casino Battle Royale for a future Women's World Title match. So what did you think of this?
Oh, with this one, always with battle royales, it can always get so crazy because you try to focus on something and then something else happens, another person comes in, and then it's just, I wouldn't say quite a clusterfuck, but still, it gets kind of crazy with all the particular ones. But with the couple particular people that were in there, there's some that I remember knowing,
Okay.
and a couple other new faces that I remember seeing in there. It's like, huh, I question what kind of matches that this particular wrestler has.
So what are some of the folks that you remembered?
That just quickly checking with the couple.
I'm guessing probably Thunder Rosa.
Yes, especially when Thunder Rosa came in.
Yes. She is very good.
But no, on whole, with that one, I tried my best to sort of keep track with it, but just with how many sort of came in, there's only so much you can kind of pay attention to with some of the matches until it kind of got down to the bottom of it. I guess the names escape me with all of them, but with the winner of the match with Ruby Soyo managing the final win with that, and her being the Joker, the last one to kind of come in with everything.
Yes.
On whole, it was kind of a thought that was going through my head, but just with the three that were left over going through that match, yeah, she was kind of the freshest, and happy for her that she made it through, but still understandable that she could manage through it.
Yeah, well, I mean, she is that's another surprise debut on the show.
Okay.
They make a big deal that they've got Ruby Soho now. She comes out to the Rancid song. I'm assuming you're not a fan of Rancid.
It definitely works for the entrance.
Okay. What did you think of Ruby Soho? Because she's got a unique look.
No, definitely sort of unique look. And just with the bits that I remember seeing from, especially near the end of the match with her skill, definitely works for that. Though I'm not exactly sure if she's a bit more rough and tumble or if she's a bit more technical with her other matches that she's been in before.
So she had previously been with WWE, was released and then signed here with AEW, and I think she's a great pickup for the company. She's very talented, and she's very marketable. And she wins by last eliminating Thunder Rosa, which again, I mean, that was another really good signing they've made recently. Yeah, I thought it's a fun match, but I understand if people have a hard time following battle royales because they can be a bit of like a million things happening at once.
So true, but there's kind of the big standouts. I can't remember her name specifically, but just early on with the one lady with all the particular makes things.
You're cutting
It's
out
like,
again.
sorry. Oh, testing 1 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, with the couple of earlier entries in the first section of it, interesting kind of styles, but no, on whole, just with seeing the couple things I saw within the match, it was definitely good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So next up we have Chris Jericho versus MJF, where if Jericho loses, he would have to retire from being a in-ring wrestler.
And his career as a wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so
Like,
I want to start off with the entrances here.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
when MJF comes out, I'm not gonna lie. When I first when this show aired, I was like, "Oh, this is really cool. They're throwing back to like old school Jericho." And then I'm like, "Oh, you bastard!"
Yeah, with him just kind of doing the almighty come in with the cape and whatnot. Just kind of the, I really hope you get your ass kicked.
So MJF comes out and he has like the like a fake version of like Jericho's old Titantron. So like they're very much like trying to set you up to think this is Jericho. And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. They're like doing this thing from like 1999. Oh, no, it's MJF. Well, that's okay. I appreciate that." So MJF comes out. Chris Jericho. Okay, I want to talk to you about this one too. So Jericho comes out and he's played to the ring by a guitarist from his band Fozzy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't mean to be mean, but this guitarist, was he fucking up or was that the equipment? Because it sounded really like fuzzy and weird.
Was a little bit fuzzy. There might have been a bit of a technical problem. He might have also been noodling a little bit with the bit of playing that he was doing, trying to really gun it a little bit with a couple things that he was hitting at the end.
Because it sounded friggin' terrible.
It was a bit sketchy. At the very most, with the crowd and the other particular things, it could cover it up a little bit, but with the bits that I kind of paid attention to, it's like, he's doing his best as he is, but there's either technical problems or he's going a little bit too hard.
Yeah, okay. Because I know nothing about playing instruments, so I'm like, I don't know if this guy's fucking up or if it's a technical thing. Anyway, what did you think of this match? Because I know you love MGF.
So with this one, with when I started watching it, and after sort of going through it, and after the battle royale, I was kind of losing steam, so I had to kind of take a bit of a break, since I either watched a little bit and then got distracted with something else I needed to take care of for the day. But kind of getting back to it, with this one, it kind of sat with, it could have gone either way. And just with knowing of Jericho's career and the particular things that he sort of did, it was like, he's probably good enough to manage through this match to pull out a win. And I'm sort of wondering if it's a case of it would either be bullshit that Jericho would manage a win, or MJF would do something to kind of push Jericho enough that he would manage a win. So there was kind of that sort of sticking with things, but it was kind of the case of MJF beating the snot out of Jericho for a bit and Jericho kind of pulling out from there. On whole, it was definitely a good match to sort of see, and I question how the heck MJF is going to manage with the back issue he supposedly had.
So, okay. I enjoy the match, but I have a problem with it. So
I can somewhat understand it.
MJF pins Jericho, which means that Jericho should retire. Now, the referee doesn't see that Jericho's foot is on the rope, which would break the count.
Yes.
So Aubrey counts 3, because that's what she's supposed to do. And then another referee comes down and it's like, no, his foot was on the rope, restart the match. But
yeah, and that's the case, yeah.
But why, like, the problem is, why doesn't that happen every time? Like, if a referee misses a call, why doesn't it, like, in another match, why doesn't another referee just come down and be like, nah, you missed that? It's so annoying to me that they're like, well, we'll just do it here. If they had come up with like another way of doing that, I would have probably liked it more. Like it's still really good. These guys are both really good in the ring and they have good chemistry together. But that little thing, I'm just like, oh, that grinds my gears.
I suppose. And it is a case that there was a couple of entries from some of the other wrestlers that came in wanting to interrupt the match, but kind of two different crews fighting outside of the ring to manage with things on there as well. Might have been a bit of a distraction as well with what was sort of going on.
Yeah, so Wardlow comes down. It looks like he's going to interfere, and then he gets attacked by Jake Hager, who runs him off.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's just furthering the feud that they've been having, so, like, that's fine.
And I think it was also a case that I appreciated at the very least that there was that call for that, and I'm sort of happy it was the case that Jericho sort of went on from that, but no, I can definitely sort of see with that this isn't usually a typical thing, that there's more than one referee to kind of see things that was going on.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly just a case of either keeping the particular wrestler in for fan appeal and just the other particular things that they want to do. And I think just the case, specifically Jericho still wants to work with that particular sorts of stuff and hasn't gone off to retire yet.
Oh, yeah, no, it's obviously because, like, obviously they see big things in MJF. They want to give him something, he can say he technically pinned Chris Jericho.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He technically should have retired Jericho, and Jericho still gets to wrestle. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Yes, as it turns out.
I totally get why they did it. I just don't love how it's done.
Yeah, just the one particular way that they decided to go with it, where there might have been some other ways to go about it, but it might have been trickier depending.
You could have just done some kind of, like, I don't know exactly how you would do it, but you could have done some kind of like disputed finish or something. But anyway, let's move on to the next match.
Yes.
So next up, we have Darby Allen versus CM Punk in CM Punk's first match in over 7 years.
Yes. Because I can't remember the exact title of it, but it's a case of the match that came from one of the last matches that you showed me from the Wrestling with Anime, with CM Punk kind of announcing his comeback to things with him going after Darby Allen.
Yeah, so we watched that episode of Rampage a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what did you think of this match? And, did you catch Darby Allen's Tron? The screen that they have, like a little video that plays when he comes out.
I caught a little glimpse of that, and I was kind of like, wait, they had a little thing for that? And then I went and looked it up, and was like, ooh, that is neat.
Okay, so did you look up anything about the animation?
Not specifically the animation, no. I saw it with the music video that I decided to listen to, but none of the specifics of who did it or other particular stuff there.
So it was animated by Rooster Teeth.
Really?
Yes.
Neat.
Yeah, it's a cool little thing that they got them to do. Plus, he has like the best entrance theme in AEW, possibly.
Jude. I don't think I was paying attention with that.
It fits his character so perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Punk comes out, so Sting comes out with Darby Allen. They have like they like fist bump on the stage, which is cool because like Sting was like, I ain't getting involved in this, like, because he's like,
this is your guys' match, not mine.
Yeah, exactly. And like Sting's kind of been like in the corner of Darby Allen because, I mean, that makes sense because Sting can only have so many matches at this point.
Mm-hmm.
CM Punk comes out, and I think the crowd's pretty happy to see him.
Oh, the crowd is ecstatic.
I mean, they're in Chicago, so that definitely helps.
Yeah.
But, so CM Punk comes back, and it's pretty cool watching the crowd just lose their mind for him.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the actual match they had? Because I thought it was it was pretty good.
No, as it was definitely a good match, just with everything that went on. again, I don't exactly have the best memory with other particular kind of matches with this, but I sort of refer to it as kind of a David versus Goliath, or the youngster versus a master in those sorts of cases.
Yeah, they're
Just
definitely
with
playing up that like CM Punk has like the strength advantage and Darby's like faster. Yeah,
just showing
and Punk
the two
kind of like has a
skill.
bit of ring rust because he hasn't wrestled in 7 years, and Darby's wrestling like every week.
Yeah. But showing the two skills colliding in the ring. But just with what they did and how they managed with that particular stuff, at particular points within the match, it looked like it would kind of go either way in some cases. But as it was more CM Punk kind of controlling certain things. And I think just the one, either Darby being a little bit too exuberant in some cases, or making a miscalculation, because after that one hit that he took, it was kind of like, that was probably not the best idea.
Darby does that a lot, though.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
understandable.
things where you go like, you probably shouldn't do that too often. Anyway,
Yeah.
So Punk wins with a go to sleep, and I mean Punk was always going to win this match, but it definitely elevates Darby Allen.
Yeah.
Because like he's in the ring with CM Punk and he's holding his own, and it's like, okay, well, a lot of people are going to watch this pay-per-view to see CM Punk, and they're going to see Darby Allen having a competitive match with him.
Yeah.
And that's only going to help Darby Allen and AEW.
Yes.
So next up, we have QT Marshall versus the giant Paul White, or as you would probably know him, the Big Show.
Yes.
So what did you think of this?
This was the quick match.
Yes, this went 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
And it was pretty much 1-on-3, essentially.
Yes, because Aaron Solo and Nick Camarado also come out with QT Marshall.
Yeah. And just the case of both them coming in, just White just blowing them off. And any sort of particular thing that QT tried to do, White was just, no, I'm not having this ridiculousness.
Yeah, I mean, he basically just like smacks them around for a little bit and pins them. Like, there's not a lot there. I like it because like QT Marshall had been being a dick to Tony Schiavone, and Paul White's like, hey, that's my buddy.
And again, sort of pulling the angle of him coming back to face him with all the stuff he's had in the past and the work that he's had to go through to get fixed up. He's not exactly in the peak shape he was anymore, but still the case of he can still manage himself in the match. So don't mess with him.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, they're not going to be putting Paul White in like 30-minute matches anytime soon, but he can go out and have like a 5-minute thing or whatever, because he had pretty bad hip issues and stuff.
Yeah, with that, it's like, you mess with my buddy.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun little thing. Paul White beats QT Marshall with a very, very safe choke slam. He put him down very gently.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which, I mean, it is what it is. So, the final match, the main event, Christian Cage, who is the Impact Wrestling Champion, is challenging Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. Now, Christian Cage had defeated Kenny Omega just a few weeks prior on AEW Rampage to win the Impact title, which is a separate company from AEW. They've just been like working together. So what did you think of this match?
On whole, just with this particular match, it was good in both of their cases. Just with the work that both of those did, they both did, and just with the match going on, it was a good wrestling match. But I was so conflicted because in my case, I appreciated both of the wrestlers. Where I sided more with Kenny Omega, but I don't like his new personality or his crew or any of the particular things that they have him as it is now. It's just kind of
He's a dick, and it's great. Like, he's such a good heel, though. Like, he's so good at being that guy. I love his over-the-top ring entrances, too. Like, how he makes Justin Roberts announce that he, like, after eating at the Waffle House by the airport and stuff, like, in North Carolina, which is a Michael Jordan joke, because he was watching that documentary about the Bulls and he thought it was really funny. So he's like, I'm just going to steal that. So, okay. You would be somewhat familiar with Christian Cage, I'm assuming.
I've seen a couple matches with what I can remember with Christian Cage, yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking you've probably seen more than you remember, because, I mean, if you think back many, many years ago, you probably remember in the WWF, Edge and Christian.
Yes, yes.
That's the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if you knew or not.
But it is more of a case that, just with the couple things that you have shown, I want to try and word this correctly. Kenny Omega is kind of the particular one that I remember.
Yeah.
It's the case of he's one of the heels that I appreciate for his work, but it's just I don't like the angle that they kind of go with for his jerkiness. The couple things that he kind of does are good in most cases, but anything that his crew kind of does add in with particular stuff is just
So,
but then of course with this match, that was the one particular thing where at first I thought it mildly charming and whatnot, but after the second time it kind of came up and it's like, oh no, please do not go down this road, good sir.
What was that?
He brought up the classic Steve Urkel line, did I do that?
I don't know why he was doing that, but it was very funny to me.
No, first time when he brought that up with the first table drop, and I was like, okay, oh boy. This match will be somewhat interesting.
Yeah, so they have quite a good back and forth match. Kenny beats Christian using not a regular one-winged angel, but one off the second rope, like an avalanche one. And I'm like, oh, they're really trying to protect Christian here. Because, like, nobody's kicked out of a standard one-winged angel in AEW yet. So the fact that he's taking one from the second rope, like, oh, they're really protecting Christian.
Okay. No, I can understand it just with where he's sitting, and especially what happens at the end.
Well, and also, like, Christian's one of the more, like, well-known signings they would have made more recently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people who maybe haven't watched in 10 years, they would know who Christian is.
Yeah.
So after Kenny beats Christian, he gets on the microphone, starts cutting a promo, and then he says a line. There's nobody. What is his line? There's nobody who can beat me in this company. They're either not here, or they're dead. And then somebody's music hits.
They're not here. They're not up for fighting me, or they're dead.
Yes. Okay, that's the line. So did you get that reference? I'm guessing you wouldn't.
Not with that one, no.
Okay. So, not to spoil it, but if you're listening to this, how do you not know? Adam Cole is going to debut right after that line. So, in an episode of Being the Elite years ago, they killed Adam Cole.
Okay.
So, this is him coming back from the dead. So, Adam Cole comes out. What did you think of Adam Cole's debut?
With that one, with how they introduced that particular thing, it's like, oh, this particular person coming in to fight Omega and all that particular sort of stuff. But then once kind of getting up to the ring, it's like, buddies! It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they do a really good job of making you think that Adam Cole's going to be a babyface coming in, and then immediately they're like, no. Of course he's not.
It's all his buddies. He's joining with the crew, and he's going to be part of the heel crew. And it's like, ugh.
And then we get some story time with Adam Cole, baby.
Yes.
So he starts cutting a promo saying, like, what are you, fucking stupid? Of course I'm going to join up with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty great. And then somebody else makes their debut.
Yes, there's the second surprise.
Which is who?
If I got the name right, it was Bryan Danielson?
Yes. Formerly known at... Do you know who he was, what his name was in WWE previously?
I recognized him, but I cannot specifically remember his other title.
It was Daniel Bryan. You would have seen him. You watched that match
Daniel
with
Bryan.
Triple H.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he comes out and, like the crowd really popped for Adam Cole. They were really happy that he was there.
Yes.
Okay. Who do you think got the loudest pop on this night? Like, who got the biggest crowd reaction? Because I'm not sure.
I think on whole, for the biggest sort of reaction, I still think it is CM Punk with Bryan being second.
Okay. Yeah, I can go with that. That's reasonable. So Bryan Danielson comes out and gets in the ring and basically chases off the heels, and they're all like, "Oh, we'll get you next time." And it's
you're not going with that whole thing. Additionally, just with the post match and whatnot, that Jungle Boy and
Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Marcos
come out
to save Christian.
Also, kind of comes in to sort of protect things before Bryan's appearance.
Yeah,
and it's like, tag team match coming in to help out the guy.
Yeah,
and because of course, the thing with Restosaurus is always going to catch my attention.
Yes, Luchasaurus is great.
Yes,
so good. So, what did you think overall of the show?
Overall, with the show, it turned out to be fairly good. I can't remember exactly what it was that you said, but there was kind of the thought of, oh dear, it's going to be another one of those matches. I don't need to wash out my brain with bleach again. But just the fact that with all the particular hype surrounding the particular shows that were going on here, just turned out to be great. And there wasn't any kind of real filler for the most part. Everything fit into the show so well with how they set everything up with this one.
Yeah, I mean, the Paul White QT Marshall match is arguably filler, but I mean, it's 3 minutes and it's still kind of fun, so I'm okay.
Yeah, with that sort of stuff. It's kind of a case that it'd be a case of either going back to see the other couple of matches that are going to be coming up after this event, or sort of looking back to see past careers of some of the other particular people that are going on, just to sort of either catch up in my case or to have fond memories of particular sorts of stuff that was going on. On the whole, it was just good to see that. Good to see what's going to come in the future, but I think the biggest thing with mine, or with all the particular matches, just was to see what's going to be happening with Darby Allen and where he's going to be kind of going from here.
Fair enough. So was there anybody who really caught your eye on this show? I want to see more of that person. It could be more than one person.
I think kind of top of the list in most cases was Darby Allen, just to sort of see where he's going, being sort of the new blood that was coming into things. Any sort of tag team matches that usually come up is always interesting, especially with the Lucha Brothers, and even how much I'm not exactly keen of them, the Young Bucks or other sorts of stuff with that. And depending on the situation, nothing goes wrong with Kenny Omega, though I'm not exactly content with how he is now. He's one of the heels that I can kind of tolerate.
Okay. I mean, he's going to probably lose the title in a couple of weeks, so. Just saying.
I think it's mostly the question of how it's going to be managed and how they're going to take it.
Oh, it's going to be huge. Because I'm willing to bet on the November. So they're having a pay-per-view in November called Full Gear, and I'm 99% sure Hangman and Adam Page is going to beat him for the world title.
Okay.
Because they've been building that for like a year at this point, and I'm like, this feels like the right time. But what did you think of Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, and Ruby Soho. Those are the new kind of people to the company at this point.
With those ones, no, on whole, again, they can kind of just only go up, I think, as it is. There wasn't anything that I saw with any of them that would have been like, okay, wait, why did you sign up as a wrestler? Like, they didn't seem too fresh-faced. They knew what they were doing. And on whole, just with their style and everything else they had, they could pretty much just only go up from here. There's no one that sort of rubbed me as, ooh, this is probably not going to turn out that great for you, or there would be a storyline of you're most likely going to get horribly injured in some way.
Okay, so I take it you enjoyed this AEW show.
Yes.
I take it you enjoyed it more than you enjoyed All In.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep bringing that up all the time because it makes me laugh endlessly. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up unless you have any final thoughts.
No, I think on whole, the show turned out good. I'm thanking goodness that it wasn't like that other show. And looking forward for things in the future, as long as it doesn't go down that road.
And like I said, I mean, the show's really good. Check it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's really freaking good. And so
it's a good wrestling.
Yeah. So until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.